This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. With more properties for sale than anywhere else, we make it easier.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at this weekend's auctions. There's about 3,400 homes up for sale. Beginning in Sydney, 930 properties will be going to auction, with another 209 around New South Wales. Melbourne has the highest number of properties with 1,465 auctions. That's a big increase on last week, which was lower due to the public holiday. Brisbane has 184 properties going to auction, with another 149 around Queensland. Adelaide has 189, and lastly, Canberra has 130 homes going under the hammer. The top viewed property online, which is going to auction this weekend, is 33 Gloucester Street, Prospect in South Australia. It's just a few kilometres north of the Adelaide CBD and is being billed strangely with no price guide. Out of the top 20 most viewed homes, 11 of them are in Victoria, 4 are in South Australia, 4 are in New South Wales, and 1 is in Queensland. This week's top listing is a lush property near the Sylvan Water Reservoir in Victoria. The address is 15 Reservoir Road, Monbulk. It's about an hour's drive east of the Melbourne CBD on the other side of the Dandenong Ranges. Property sits on about 2,000 square metres and has 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The home itself has a bit of a rustic feel with modern luxuries such as hydronic heating, 2 ovens in the kitchen, solar panels on the roof and a split system aircon. Residence has plenty of indoor and outdoor living and entertaining areas, including a large patio with an outdoor kitchen and barbecue. Property also has a barn, which has a massive 160 square metres of internal space. The barn features a bar for entertaining, a spa bath and a wood furnace. Price guide for this one is between 1.03 million and 1.13 million. Looks like the perfect weekend getaway. Let's get an update on this weekend's auctions with Angus Moore, Economist at REA Group. Angus, thanks for your time. Let's start with those auction numbers this weekend. About 3,400 homes up for auction. Seems like quite a lot for this time of the year.
Thanks for having me, Ed. It certainly is. It's going to be a busy weekend, and that's really been the theme this year broadly, I would say. You know, we've seen more new listings across January and February than we have to start a year since 2014. We've had as many sales this year, or nearly as many as we did last year, and that's pretty notable because last year was a very busy year. The last couple of weeks have been a little bit quieter, and that's been partly due to public holidays, and also not necessarily surprising given how busy the start to the year was. But certainly this week looks like it will be busy again. And as we look to the autumn selling season, that's probably going to continue. Selling conditions look pretty good still. We're seeing strong levels of buyer demand on realestate.com.au. Properties are still selling quite quickly, so we think selling conditions are going to remain pretty good. Maybe not as good as we were seeing in spring last year when buyer demand was at record levels. We have seen a lot of properties come to market since then. We had a busy spring and a busy start to the year. So that's helped ease conditions a little bit for buyers.
Yeah, I'm reading reports this week saying rental vacancies hit a 16-year low in February. How's the inner city rental market tracking right now?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I think it's kind of the key development in property markets for me at the moment. We're starting to see demand to rent in the inner cities kind of come back. And that's pretty notable because it was not the case through the last 2 years. The story of the pandemic was really leaving the cities and heading to the regions and the outer suburbs. An indication of that is we saw rents in inner city Melbourne fall by as much as a quarter. In inner city Sydney, they fell by something like 10%. That looks like it's starting to change. So searches for inner CBD rentals on realestate.com.au are up something like a quarter compared to where they were last year. Melbourne's seen a particularly sharp bounce. It's up something like 40% compared to the same time last year. Though that's as much a story of how hard Melbourne was hit last year as how quick it's coming back. But broadly speaking, we are seeing a lot more interest in renting in the inner cities across the nation.
Yeah, I'm reading reports saying rental vacancies are at just 1.2%. So does that mean landlords are starting to charge higher rents again? And is there also now interest from investors again in buying rental properties that they can rent out?
Yeah, so we are absolutely seeing far fewer rentals than has been the case in the past. Rental vacancies are very low. Number of rentals listed on realestate.com.au is down compared to where it was pre-pandemic and down compared to where it was last year. Another indication of that is how quickly places are renting when they are listed. So we're seeing the median time that a place is listed on realestate.com.au has fallen to 22 days, which I think gives you a sense of how quickly renters are having to make a choice given the scarce options they're facing. What that means is that we're starting to see rents rise. So, as you were saying, we are seeing that. Even in places like Melbourne and Sydney, which, as we're discussing, had seen rents fall, we are now starting to see advertised rents rise.
Okay, so rents rising in the inner city areas, but what about some of those regional cities outside of the cities? Are rental markets in those regional towns tightening up as well?
Yeah, the rental markets regionally remain very tight. They have been sort of for much of the last year. We've seen big population flows out of the city towards regional areas over the pandemic. That and lack of new supply coming to market has meant that rental vacancies have fallen there, and we've seen rent prices grow quite quickly in regional areas.
And just quickly, Angus, how large a part of the market these days are first home buyers? I know they were really big last year. How are they tracking this year?
Yeah, so we saw a lot of first home buyer interest across last year. This year, we're starting to see more investors coming back into the market after they kind of left through much of late 2020 and early to mid 2021. Investors' share of credits picked up this year, kind of to the expense of existing owner-occupiers and first home buyers. So more shifting towards investors, I would say.
Well, Angus Moore, REA Group Economist, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ed.